Hi there friends, welcome back to my channel and look who I am. Desiree,
Hi.
thank you so much for being on my channel.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Yay. So Desiree-Anne is the author of this book. We do not talk about it ever, and I'm sure if you watched my previous video then you saw me rave about this book, right? Desiree, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your book?
Myself, well, I am a
Short version.
Yeah, I'm a 40-something-year-old mom and wife, and I'm also an addictions counselor, and I'm a postgrad student at UCT, and I am an author now.
Yay! An author of what? Of all of this. All of this. She has a story in this anthology, which I think
after yours.
Yeah. Yes, true. Yeah. So I have a story. Des has a story. Please get this book. She also has this collection of poetry, right? Yeah. How would you describe this? Because it's more than just poems.
It's a kind of it's, if you have a look at it, it's kind of show.
Yeah.
There's poetry and there's also space for journaling and doodling and self-expression. So that it's an interactive book. So that it's half filled with my poetry, but it's actually meant to inspire people to get creative themselves, and to write their own poems or short stories or hate mail or love letters or whatever comes up. So this is a kind of a journal. It's called Poetry and Life Stuff. So it's for anyone who wants to feel inspired.
Perfect. That's such a great idea.
Thank you.
And of course we have this book. Do you want to tell us about this? How did this happen?
This is Dawn Garish's fault.
For those who don't know, Dawn Garish is the founder of the Life Writing Collective.
Yes,
I will put information about the Life Writing Collective below.
So it's her fault because I went to one of her workshops. It could possibly be 5 years ago, and I was still going like, I'm not a writer, and Dawn was like, you're a writer, and from that came short stories that I started writing, and I kept writing them for a few years, and then I kept going back to workshops, and I went to another series of workshops with my publisher as well, and I realized that when I started my blog, which is www.believemoredeeply.co.za. When I started my blog and I saw that what I was publishing and what I was putting out there, that I could actually put them together and I was actually telling my life story. But I thought I was just writing short stories and little vignettes about life, but actually what I was doing was I was what my publisher called collecting. I was just busy just collecting the stories, and then the form and the structure came later.
That for me comes across in the book.
Yeah.
And I think when I was reading it, I made a note to say it feels like a collection of short stories.
Yeah. Initially, that's what it was. It was a collection of short stories that I published on my blog. And then I decided there's all these gaps. And then this particular wall had this huge timeline on it with all these events that I could write about. And so I started writing about them and then filling in the gaps, and then ended up with a memoir.
Fantastic.
And
we don't talk about it ever. Tell me about the title.
The title is about my transgenerational legacy of secret keeping. We keep secrets in our family. That's what we're taught to do. That's what we were raised to do. As long as everything looks like it's okay on the outside.
It's a disease we have as people of color. I must say, that resonates with me. Like this thing of it's all good on the outside,
but it's rotting. It's absolutely rotting, and the carpet is piled this high with the stuff that's been swept underneath it. That every time you walk in the room, you're like tripping over the stuff. But you need to pretend that everything's okay. And the we don't talk about it ever was a rule in my family, along with a few other rules about like how we don't show emotion and how we pretend that everything's okay and how like there will be no more surprises. So there were certain rules in my family, and we don't talk about it ever was one of those rules, is that like it doesn't matter what's going on for you as a family, as in the community, like we just don't talk about these things, you know, we just pretend everything's okay. Yeah.
Cool. I just want to check that it's still recording. It is.
Okay, cool.
So your book is filled with stories from obviously your own life, and some of the stories, you know, it was hard for me as a reader to get through.
Okay.
One, because, you know, your story resonates with me. Some aspects of it, you know, have been my experience as well. And
Okay,
I just
that's
wondered, as you were writing this and looking back on your own story, was that challenging at all? Or was it maybe cathartic for you? What was...
It was both.
Okay.
It was incredibly challenging to write about certain things, especially stuff like the childhood sexual abuse and also about certain things that happened later on in the book. It was very difficult for me to access that place and to go back to that place. But on another level, it was also very cathartic because I could actually, for the first time, I'd say verbalize, but actually put it down on paper and put the whole story out there, including the feelings and everything that came with it. So it was in turns very painful and cathartic, but it was also a healing process for me, to actually look at my life and to go through what I thought were the pertinent and the relevant kind of issues, especially the ones that we don't talk about, you know. So, and I spoke about these things.
You did.
And that was so...
You did.
So
I'm like, wow, she is going there.
I went there.
You went all the way there.
I was like, sometimes I was like, am I going to go there? I'm going there.
You're going
I'm
there.
totally going there. So, and I went there.
You know, there was so I was reading your book while I was traveling in the UK, and I must admit, like some parts I was like reading them in a public space, and I was like, just gonna close that for a second.
You're probably referring to when I lost my virginity. And the reason why I'm saying is because it's like it's one of the things that I'm left feeling is like people know how I lost my virginity. Stuff. There's other stuff that happens in the book that's also hectic, but to have something so intimate and so personal, and I did go there, and now I'm feeling like afterwards like people have read my book and they're like, we know. For sure.
But I must admit, like I was like, damn, she's a badass.
I like to think of myself as that, but I was just filled with fear constantly worried about what people were going to think about me, what people were going to say about me. Constantly worried about keeping up the facade of everything being okay. I was filled with fear throughout my childhood and my adolescence and a lot of my adulthood as well, which is probably why I turned to addiction as well, because it was just this great anesthetic for all these feelings that I had that I couldn't make sense of and that I couldn't manage myself. And so I wanted to think of myself as this badass rebel, but I was actually just a scaredy cat who was, and parts of me just also didn't care really about consequences. You know, I didn't care about consequences much. At the time. Unfortunately, I'm a big person now, so I have to care. I have to care about consequences.
So. Obviously, with the book, because it's memoir, you reveal a lot about your own life, but also about other people's lives.
I do.
Tell me, how's that been? What's been the feedback? Because when I was reading about specifically how your relationship with your mother,
yes,
you did not hold back.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, how was that? And how has she
she's not talking about it.
Okay. Still.
So it's just a continuation of it. It's like my response from my family has been as though it's been a non-event. They're not talking about the book that is titled "We Don't Talk About It Ever," and they're not talking about it. It's just the most bizarre thing. It's like I did have an interesting conversation with my dad, who's chosen not to read it because because he doesn't want to see my perspective of him growing up, and he also doesn't want to read about certain hurtful things that have happened to me. I don't think that he wanted to read about that, but so he chose not to read it, but that was like a conscious choice. Whereas like with my mom, she I'm not even sure if she knows what the book's about. You know, so
not even from a curious perspective or oh, my daughter's written a book.
No, she's very proud of me, but and she's very proud that the book's been published and that I've written a book and that I've had a dream come true. But she's not interested in the content, you know, and I do like really go into my relationship with my mom because it was a formidable relationship, and it really molded and formed a huge part of my identity for many years. But she's not talking about it. Yeah. So that's been an interesting response.
I mean, it's quite evident with this conversation that we've been having that you are such a funny and humorous person.
Thank you.
And you infuse humor into your story. Why do you think that was important?
I think it was absolutely necessary. Otherwise, it would be a very depressing book. But that's basically how I approach my life. You know,
right?
That I do have a good sense of humor, and I have to laugh at certain things.
Yeah.
And I have to laugh certain things off, and I think my observations are just humorous, you know, and that's apparent like throughout the book, and there's certain parts where even I was like, hey, that's funny. Yeah. I gotta put that in.
Yeah. Completely.
Because even though I was writing about the most atrocious things, I could still see like the humor in it. Yeah. But the humor, I think, was retrospective for some of the things, and it's hard when you're going through difficult things to find the humor in it immediately, but on a retrospective level, then you can see the funny side of it. But if I hadn't put humor in my book, I think it would have been very, very bleak. You're writing a memoir.
Some kind of version of that.
I don't even know what that means, but that sounds
knows what that means.
But that sounds very interesting. Put that right down on the list.
Yeah. I mean, the short story I have in the Life Writing Collective, the anthology, beautiful. That is memoir. So if anything, I would do something around that, like a continuation or a series of those kind of stories. I just find my inner child or me at that age just so fascinating. To just see how she was in the world, and I'm like, where did you get this courage from, or just this, all these like odd things that you do.
I found that really interesting as well because my book spans my life, and writing from the child's voice and writing from the adolescent's voice and writing from the addict's voice and they're all, to me anyway, and I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but they are so different, and there's a different tone, and then there's a different kind of attitude, and then writing as the adult in recovery and writing as the new mom and stuff like that, and all these voices. But it was fascinating to me, particularly that inner child one. I was like, when that voice came out, I was like, where do you come from? Where are you finding the words? Because we didn't have the words back then. And then I found the words. And I found the words in that voice as well,
But how did that process happen? How did you connect with your inner child? Was it I'm just going to sit down and try write from this perspective?
I think, when I did my timeline of events that I had to write about that shaped my life, I think it was I just sat down and I wrote, and then I took the writing to therapy,
as one does,
as you do, and I was like, I was like, I'm gonna read you something, okay, and we need to process this because this is like hectic, so it needs to be processed. So, and I'm not ashamed to say that I love therapy. I think everybody should be in therapy,
right?
Yeah, and it was. I connected with the voice. The voice just came naturally, and then the processing happened afterwards.
Okay, great. And if someone is wanting to be a fancy author like yourself,
Hard.
what are the?
I'm so like I'm an author. Oh
You are. Yeah, you have 3 books out,
I think I'm an author now. Hey?
Yeah, you are official. Where's the stamp? I need to officiate it.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But what are the practical steps that you took to write the memoir? So we know that you did courses.
I did writing workshops, which were absolutely essential, and I wrote.
And you wrote, of course.
And I know it sounds so obvious, but I actually made it like a job, and I put time aside and I scheduled it into my week, and whether I sat there and I wrote one sentence or I sat there and I wrote an entire chapter, I needed to sit there for that hour and a half, and that was my writing time, and I scheduled it into my week. I made it like a job because I felt that it deserved that amount of dedication, and it deserved that kind of amount of professionalism, because I needed to take myself seriously if I was going to write this thing. And also I'm back to the writing workshops and the Life Writing Collective and all of that. It's like invaluable. It was absolutely invaluable. I wouldn't have been able to write the ending of my book if I hadn't attended one of Dawn's workshops as well, because I was given like a week to write 10,000 words or something something little like that, you know what I mean? 10, so I was like, I need a workshop, okay, going to a workshop, okay, and so that was very important, and because you get the feedback, and you get, and I love the instant gratification of the reading out and then the feedback and stuff. It's so cool, but also just like 10 people that you've never met before who have no real vested interest in what it is that you're writing, and so their opinions are actually more important than somebody who would have a vested interest in it.
True. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, in summary, right. Right. Damn it, right. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for having me. So in conclusion, people are out there and they want to read this book. Why should they pick up your book? Did I ambush you there?
That was like an assault. Okay.
I'm sorry. It was a kind assault.
I struggle with that question because because I don't know why I struggle with it, but you know what? It's brave, it's courageous, it's honest, it's open, it's out there. I go to those places that I talk about stigmatized issues such as abuse and mental illness and addiction and all of these things. I go there, and I think that it's a very open and it's a very captivating book as well, because I think that the story within itself is fascinating. I'm quite surprised I survived it. You know what I mean? So
survived your own life.
I survived my own life a few times. You know what I mean? I kept getting back up. And
well done.
but ultimately, I think it's a story about hope. You know, that yes, there's this whole lot of stuff that happens, and it shouldn't all be happening to one person, but ultimately it's about redemption and it's about hope. And I think that people need more stories like that, you know, that you can go through all these harrowing and brutal experiences, but at the end of the day, it's like there's always hope.
Hope.
And
I will add to that it is really well written.
thank you very much.
It is, not only is it a great story, it's a great piece of literary work.
Oh,
it
wow.
really is.
Thank you so much.
And the other thing I was super proud of was, because we've kind of, you know, we've engaged like in different contexts. And I knew this was your book. I could hear you. I could sense you.
A lot of people have said that.
And sometimes someone will write a book and you're just like, There've been several books that I've read and I'm like, that's the editor. You know? And with you, I really felt like you maintained your voice and your personality and just like how humorous it is. So
fantastic.
Yeah. Those are
Those
are two things to add, which are really awesome.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. That's such a compliment. Thank you.
Of course. Cool. So that was our conversation with the wonderful Desiree. So please get her book. It is available in all the major stores.
Exclusives, readers, bargain books, Amazon. Everywhere.
Amazon International.
It is.
Okay. Okay, great. So please get the book and comment below if you are going to get the book, and if you do eventually, you know, Des and I are both on Instagram. I'll put our Insta information and you can, you know, tag us.
Yes,
please. On what you thought of the book.
Yes, send feedback. I love feedback.
Right.
I love hearing about people's experiences of the book. So so please get
and reviews.
Yes, and reviews, please.
Great. All right, that was it. Thank you for joining us. And you know what to do. Please like if you like this conversation. Comment down below.
Don't do that.
Excuse me. Don't do that.
Yes.
Do that. Okay, cool. And please subscribe if you are new to this channel. All right, good people. Take care and goodbye.
Bye.
Yay, that was amazing.
So cool.
Thank you.
It flowed so awesomely.
Yeah, it did. I loved it.